So, you've got this great idea for a story. It's swirling around in your head, a jumble of exciting scenes and interesting characters. You can't wait to get it all down on paper. But how do you move from that initial spark of inspiration to a fully realized piece of writing? That's where drafting comes in. Drafting is like building a house. You start with a blueprint, a rough sketch of your ideas. Then you begin to lay the foundation, adding bricks and mortar piece by piece. It's about bringing your ideas to life, one word at a time. Drafting is where the magic happens. It's where you take those raw, unpolished thoughts and mold them into something tangible. It's about giving your ideas a shape, a form, a voice. Don't worry about perfection at this stage. Just focus on getting your thoughts down on paper. Think of it as a conversation with yourself, a way of exploring your ideas and seeing where they take you. Remember, the first draft is just the beginning. You'll have plenty of time to revise and polish your work later. For now, just enjoy the process of creation. Share your draft with others, get their feedback, and see how your story resonates. Use their insights to refine your work, making it even stronger. And remember, every great story starts with a single idea brought to life through dedication and creativity. The first draft is all about freedom, a unique kind of freedom that allows you to explore without boundaries, freedom to experiment, to make mistakes, to explore different paths, and to discover new ideas. It's a space where you can let your imagination run wild without the pressure of judgment or the need for perfection. Don't be afraid to write badly in the first draft. Embrace the chaos and the imperfections. In fact, it's almost impossible to write well on the first try. The first draft is a starting point, not the final destination. The goal is not to create a masterpiece, but to get your ideas out of your head and onto the page where they can begin to take shape. Think of your first draft as a lump of clay, raw and unformed. It's messy and undefined, but full of potential, waiting to be molded into something beautiful. You can mold it and shape it into anything you want with time and effort. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Dive into the process wholeheartedly. Play with different ideas, try out different voices, and see what works best for your story. The beauty of the first draft is that there are no rules, no restrictions. You can write whatever you want, however you want, and let your thoughts flow freely. So relax, have fun, and let your creativity flow. Enjoy the journey of creating your first draft. Every good story needs a solid structure, a framework to hold it together. Think of it as the skeleton of your story, the underlying bones that give it shape and support. A clear structure helps your reader follow along and understand your message. It doesn't have to be complicated. Start with a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is where you introduce your characters and setting the stage for the story to unfold. The middle is where the action happens, where your characters face challenges and grow. The end is where you tie up loose ends and provide a sense of closure. Of course, there are many different ways to structure a story, but having a clear beginning, middle, and end is a good place to start. Imagine reading a story that jumps from one idea to another without any connection. It would be confusing and frustrating, right? That's why flow is so important in writing. Flow refers to the way your ideas connect and transition from one to another. It's about creating a smooth, seamless reading experience that keeps your reader engaged from beginning to end. One way to improve flow is to use transitions. Transitions are words or phrases that connect sentences and paragraphs, showing the relationship between ideas. Words like however, therefore, in addition, and meanwhile are all examples of transitions. Using transitions effectively can make your writing feel more cohesive and effortless to read. So as you're drafting, pay attention to how your ideas are connected. Are there any abrupt jumps or shifts in focus? If so, try adding some transitions to create a smoother flow. Expanding your horizons. Adding depth and detail. Remember that lump of clay we talked about earlier? Well, now it's time to start molding it into something more defined. This is where you add depth and detail to your writing, fleshing out your ideas and bringing them to life. Think about your characters. What are their motivations? What are their flaws? The more you know about your characters, the more real they will feel to your reader. Don't be afraid to use sensory details to create a vivid picture in your reader's mind. Describe what you see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Use strong verbs and vivid adjectives to paint a picture with your words. Remember, the goal is to immerse your reader in the world you're creating. Battling the inner critic. Overcoming writer's block. We all have that little voice inside our heads that tells us we're not good enough. It's the voice of self-doubt, and it can be incredibly crippling, especially when you're trying to write. Writer's block is a common experience, and it can strike at any time. You might feel stuck on a particular scene, or you might feel completely uninspired. The important thing is not to let it paralyze you. Remember, every writer faces this challenge at some point. One of the best ways to overcome writer's block is to simply start writing. Even if it feels forced at first, the act of writing can help break the mental barrier. It doesn't matter what you write about, just get those words flowing. Write about your day, your thoughts, or even your frustrations about writer's block. Free writing can be a helpful technique. It allows your mind to wander and explore new ideas without the pressure of perfection. Set a timer for 10 minutes and write whatever comes to mind without stopping or censoring yourself. And this exercise can unlock unexpected creativity. You might be surprised at what comes out. Sometimes the best ideas come when you least expect them. Another helpful tip is to change your environment. A new setting can provide fresh inspiration and a different perspective. If you're stuck at your desk, try going for a walk or heading to a coffee shop. The change in scenery can stimulate your mind and help you think differently. Sometimes a change of scenery is all you need to jumpstart your creativity. Embrace these moments and let your surroundings inspire you. Embracing imperfection, the beauty of the rough draft. Remember, the first draft is just that, a draft. It's not meant to be perfect. In fact, it's going to be messy and flawed, and that's okay. Embrace the imperfections. The beauty of the rough draft is that it gives you something to work with. It's a starting point, a foundation upon which you can build. Don't be afraid to experiment, to make mistakes, to try new things. The more you write, the better you'll become at identifying what works and what doesn't. The journey from draft to masterpiece. The journey from first draft to final manuscript is a process. It takes time, patience, and a lot of revision. But it's also incredibly rewarding. As you revise, you'll begin to see your story take shape. You'll start to notice the weak spots, the places where your writing needs more work, and you'll also discover the gems, the parts of your story that sing. Don't be afraid to make major changes during the revision process. Sometimes you have to be willing to kill your darlings, even if it means cutting out entire sections of your story. Remember, the goal is to create the best possible version of your work. And sometimes that means making tough decisions. Conclusion. Take the plunge and start drafting. Writing can be daunting, especially when you're staring at a blank page. But remember, the first step is always the hardest. Once you start writing, the words will begin to flow. So, what are you waiting for? Take the plunge and start drafting. Embrace the messiness, the imperfections, the joy of creation. Remember, the first draft is your playground. Have fun and see where your imagination takes you.